I was sipping coffee on my porch when 10 roaring garbage trucks lined up outside my ranch like they were about to invade a small country, engines snarling, dust flying, and there's HOA Karen right at the front, clutching her clipboard like she's leading some military coup. You want a sight that'll jolt you awake faster than caffeine? Try seeing that line of trucks at sunrise, led by the nosiest neighbor in 3 counties. For half a second, I thought maybe I'd finally snapped dreaming the whole thing. But when Karen started blasting her megaphone screaming that my land was a public blight, well, that's when I realized, nope, this was my real life, and I was in for one heck of a morning. The gate gave a low creak as I strolled down to meet 'em boots crunching in the gravel. I didn't say a word, just picked up the big chain and padlock, looped it through the post, and snapped it shut, loud enough for Karen to hear it clear across the valley. Her little smirk froze, and all those drivers still sitting inside their trucks started giving each other sideways looks as if suddenly realizing they'd signed up for a rodeo, not a cleanup job. I just leaned on the fence calm as a Sunday nap and watched as Queen Karen of the HOA realized she'd marched her army 1 inch too far onto the wrong man's land. Let me back up a sec. My place isn't much to brag about. If you're into manicured lawns and marble driveways, but 30 acres of open country red barn I built with my own hands, and the kind of silence you can taste, that's my American dream. I moved out here to dodge the endless HOA rules, the barking, the gossip. But turns out when some people run out of problems, they invent new ones. HOA decided their little kingdom wasn't enough. They wanted to unify standards out here too, meaning in plain English, they wanted control. And Karen, their self-appointed president, she didn't own much land, but she sure owned a lot of nerve. For weeks, I'd gotten letters about unsightly machinery waste, even my tractor being too yellow. You know how some folks are born to tattle. That's Karen. But my land wasn't even under their HOA jurisdiction, so I ignored every warning, figuring the storm would pass. Boy, was I wrong. First truck rumbled up. I figured it was a wrong turn. By the time all 10 parked across the main road, blocking it like some sort of parade, I realized Karen had lost her mind. She started barking orders, waving around her mandate, and telling the drivers to clean up the disgrace. I asked her real gentle if she had a warrant or even so much as a letter from the county. She just puffed up and said, "We have an HOA order." That almost made me laugh, I'm not going to lie. So I let all 10 trucks roll in slow as molasses, their wheels tearing up the dirt road I'd graded myself. They formed a half circle in front of my barn. Then I clicked the gate shut behind them. That lock echoed across the field, and Karen's confidence finally cracked. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled, voice shaking more than her clipboard. "Protecting private property," I said. She demanded I open it, and I told her sure, just as soon as the sheriff showed up to see if her mission was legal. And just like that, her army got real nervous. One driver even turned off his truck, saying, "I don't get paid enough for this, ma'am." I walked back to my porch, poured myself more coffee, and watched her pace, boxed in by her own ambition. I could see her little HOA banner taped to one of the trucks, no doubt for show, like this was some parade and not a setup. Because that was the play dump garbage on my land, make it look like I was violating environmental codes, and then force the county's hand. Not bad, Karen, but not quite smart enough. See, I had my paperwork in order. Cameras, permits, maps with the HOA boundary marked in black and white. She just had gossip and a bad attitude. I called the sheriff. He knew me country's a small place. He laughed so hard he nearly dropped the phone. "You say you got 10 garbage trucks trapped on your ranch and the HOA president trespassing." "That's right," I said. "I'll keep the gate locked till you get here." Didn't have to tell me twice. By the time the county deputy rolled up, lights flashing, Karen was in full meltdown trying to talk her way out. The deputy stepped out, asked for authorization. Karen shoved a few crumpled printouts in his hand. Stuff she'd made at home. He took one look and said, "Ma'am, this isn't legal. You just trespassed and attempted illegal dumping on private land." Her drivers started shifting, muttering, some climbing down from their truck, suddenly realizing they might be in trouble. Deputy told them to stay put until the county inspector arrived. Karen switched from barking to begging, calling it all a misunderstanding. I just sipped my coffee and told her, yeah, it was a misunderstanding, all right, the kind where folks think HOA means sheriff. She tried to offer a handshake. I didn't take it. Told her she could leave when the county said so. That's when it hit her. She was trapped by her own plan. Sun started dipping behind the mountains, and I watched as the valley quieted, flashing red and blue lights glinting off a row of garbage trucks. Karen, sitting alone in her car, looked more like a kid sent to the principal's office than the tyrant who'd shown up that morning. But you know what? That was just the opening round. By the next morning, word had spread. Locals slowed down to film the scene like it was a parade or the world's dumbest reality show. Karen tried to look important, hiding behind sunglasses, but everyone saw through it. County's environmental officer arrived, real authority this time, clipboard in hand. "Who organized this?" he asked. The drivers pointed at Karen. The silence was heavy enough to hear birds land on the barn roof. I explained, handed over my deed boundary map, every scrap of proof the HOA had no say out here. He checked my GPS, nodded, and turned to Karen. "Do you have a permit to dump?" "It was community approved," she stammered. He just raised an eyebrow. "Community approval isn't a permit, ma'am." Even the drivers backed away. Then she tried to show him her self-made notices, all stamped with clip art. He sighed. "Ma'am, falsifying government insignia is a crime." Her face turned the color of cold oatmeal. The inspector photographed everything, documented every piece of her mess. He turned to me, said I could file for illegal dumping and trespass. Karen panicked, claiming it was about community health. The officer ignored her, had her escorted aside. Her loyal drivers were stuck waiting now, losing hundreds by the hour. I did my chores as usual, whistling, while they watched me, probably wondering how they'd ended up on this wild ride. And then the local news van rolled up. Reporter hollered through the fence. Karen dashed over, claiming she rescued a neglected property. Cameraman pointed out the trucks, asked why they were full of garbage, if the ranch was neglected. She stumbled. I leaned on the fence, said land's been cleaned since I bought it. The only trash that showed up came on 4 wheels. Cameraman almost lost it, trying not to laugh. Karen accused me of media harassment, demanded I open the gate. I told her, sorry, it's an active investigation. The look on her face was priceless. Later that day, county supervisor arrived, checked my paperwork, said, "You handled this smart. Not many folks could keep their cool." He turned to Karen. "You'll hear from our legal office soon. This is going to get expensive." She argued, but nobody listened. Finally, under county watch, trucks rolled out. Drivers nodded at me, apologetic. Karen left last, not looking back. I closed the gate, looked across my land, peaceful again, but I knew her kind doesn't quit after one defeat. She'd be back, maybe with lawyers this time. And she was. Next morning, there's an orange violation sticker on my mailbox. Failure to maintain community standards. The font's still wrong, the logo clearly homemade. I just added it to my folder labeled evidence. No need to get mad people like her feed on that. Instead, I outthought her. I went to the county office, met Joyce, sweet lady who ran the zoning desk. "You're the rancher everyone's talking about." She laughed, printing out zoning maps and HOA complaints. 6 new ones, all from Karen, ranging from noise to illegal trees. I took the stack home, prepped. My defenses started pulling security footage every moment Karen ordered those trucks, every time she crossed my line, all cataloged and ready. Then a property lawyer showed up, Robert Lane, HOA's newest hire. He tried to tell me I'd embarrassed the association and might be liable for community disruption. I handed him the county's report, sheriff's statement, my deed. His face dropped, and he said he'd review the facts. Yeah, good luck with that. Couple days later, Phil, the vineyard owner, stopped by with wine and news. Karen was fighting her own board. Now her little empire crumbling. But right as things settled, I found fresh tire tracks by my creek, illegal dumping done at night. Trail cam caught her clear as day, flashlight in hand, tossing bags and snapping photos, trying to fake evidence against me. I set a trap, replaced the trash with decoy bags, added new cameras. 2 nights later, caught her in the act. Deputies arrived, flashlights blazing, and this time there were no excuses. Karen was charged with trespass, and dumping her mugshot even made the local paper. My land never looked cleaner. But even that wasn't the end. She filed a lawsuit for defamation, distress obstruction. My lawyer Davis was more amused than angry. She's creative. I'll give her that. Davis countersued, and the truck driver even agreed to testify against Karen. Meanwhile, I just kept working the ranch while Karen sent spies neighbors pretending to walk their dogs by my fence, snapping pictures. You know, the usual. Court day came. Karen in a bright pink blazer, 2 red-faced lawyers. Judge watched footage of her garbage trucks, fake notices, nighttime dumping, silent courtroom, except for her voice echoing from the speakers. Karen tried to claim it was all a deep fake. The judge wasn't having it. Her lawsuit was tossed, the HOA faced its own investigation, and I walked out free and clear. One board member even whispered, "We're done with her. Revenge by silence is sweeter than any shouting match." Thought that'd be the end, but nope. Rumors started up online, claims about illegal ranching, county cover-ups. Davis filed for harassment. Reporters now took my side. Headlines ran, "HOA president faces backlash." Even people who don't like ranchers cheered for me. Karen tried to start over, building rental cabins up on the ridge near my fence. Illegal water taps, construction without permits, all shut down after a surprise county inspection. Then the rains came, foundations slid, cabins collapsed. Her pride literally washed downhill. She tried to blame me for the mess, but my lawyer's response shut that down cold. Each time I documented everything: photos, dates, witnesses. Patience over panic every time. Even after all that, Karen tried one more time. Fake land survey stakes, boundary disputes, even cutting my gate and dumping trash at my barn. The sheriff came, arrested her for trespass and vandalism, and this time her bail wasn't cheap. She finally moved away. HOA dissolved, land at peace. But that's not the whole story. A few months later, a new council formed to protect ranchers' rights asked me to help, which still makes me laugh. I became a symbol not because I shouted, but because I stood my ground. The land taught me patience. The storm taught me resolve. And when Karen finally sent a letter apologizing, saying she finally saw what peace looked like, I realized I didn't need revenge. I just needed to hold the line. So let me ask you, who do you think was right here? The one who kept pushing, or the one who stood still and let the truth speak for itself? Tell me below, what would you have done in my boots? Ever gone up against a Karen or an HOA? I want to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts on justice, right and wrong, or any wild neighborhood drama you've survived, because in the end, peace isn't given. It's earned every single day.